All right, welcome everybody to our first webinar on new ways. I think we've got the technology all working this time. And I'm Rob England. Some of you will know me. I'm a consultant in Wellington, New Zealand. And this is my partner in life and work, Dr. Cherry Vu. Hi, Cherry.
Hi, Rob England, my best assistant ever.
Cherry's under the illusion that she's my boss. We're constantly negotiating the corporate structure. So Cherry and I, are partners in life and work, and we brand ourselves as Teal Unicorn, which is a brand associated with two keywords: teal, which is corporate culture or organizational or corporate culture, color code for that, one of the highest aspirational levels from Frederick Laloux. So we'll add links after this to Laloux's works and his views on corporate culture. And we will, and then Unicorn, which is the aspirational operating model for the Agile and DevOpsy people. So that's what we call ourselves. And so welcome to our attendees, our small number of early supporters in this hopefully ongoing discussion. We'll keep this going as long as people are interested. And so you can add questions on Slido. sli.do is the URL. And as we go through the webinar, I'll try and remember to keep an eye on Slido for questions, and when we want questions, we'll come back to that. So, and also within Zoom, you can raise your hand if things aren't going well. And in some future time, we might try the Zoom version of question and answer as well. So we've been on an interesting journey where we've been learning about
new ways of working.
Yeah, new ways of working, Agile as it applies to the enterprise. So having come from an IT background, I've been steeped in Agile, and in particular the DevOps flavor of Agile in the IT world for a number of years. And Cherry, you don't come from an IT background at all.
Yes, and I'm a change agent. I move you from the IT specific to Agile enterprise. It's higher level, is that right?
Yeah, and so we got together a couple of years ago, and we've been working together ever since. And we were very fortunate to have an early client in Vietnam where the CEO knew of Cherry's work, and we got invited there to help at an organizational level with transformation, and learnt quite a lot about that, didn't we?
Yes, and it's funny enough that at the beginning he didn't actually have the ideas of transform the whole organization. They just invite us to come to help them to make the workers happy. But then after some time we study a lot about how they work and how people, whether the people are happy or not, and we come to realize that it's not about people. It's all about the system and the management that make people unhappy. So we try to help them to unlock the system to make them more agile and more people have more freedom to do their work.
And that was very interesting for us. We learnt a lot and delved a lot as we went along, like good consultants. And so we felt tempted to share some of our learnings as we started applying these ideas more widely. And So we've been putting a book together for the last almost a year now, and it's taking as long as these things always seem to take. And so in the process of doing that, we learned an awful lot more. We're reaching out to a number of communities around the world where we can learn more. So one of those is the Open Leadership Network. So we had we took the opportunity to go to a conference in the US a few months ago with the Open Leadership Network, who are another whole tribe of people driving ideas around new ways of working.
And to be honest, I feel like I'm more connected to that community rather than DevOps, because they don't speak IT language mostly.
That's right. Some of them are IT people.
Yes.
But an awful lot of them are not.
Yeah.
So we learnt about the open movement, which has its roots in the open space concepts, which are a lot more than just how you run a one-day event. There are much deeper philosophical roots there. And we're reaching out to the Business Agility Institute as an international community, and we're talking with them and learning from them, and we'll be going to one of their conferences in September in Australia.
I hope that we can learn a lot from the business agility, and I'm so excited that I will be the founders of the Vietnam Business Agility soon. So hopefully that we can make it happen in a week time when we are in Vietnam.
Yes, we're back. So we work in both countries now, and in New Zealand I lead and Cherry helps me out, and in Vietnam Cherry does everything and I make the projector work. It's a very good arrangement.
Yes, that's why I said that you are my best assistant ever. You don't believe that. Yeah. But anyway, the best assistant ever shouldn't wake her boss up in the morning and have to be beautiful and sharp. Really kill me.
Yeah, so for those watching, it's 8 a.m. in New Zealand. One of the challenges of living at the bottom of the planet is the strange hours that we do these things. And we're not being consultants, we're not really morning people. So we're still supping on our first coffee of the day. So it's an interesting experience working in two cultures, flipping back and forward between the two. And that's another aspect of our work, is that we do get to work within IT organizations and within broader enterprise. We get to work in the mildly progressive culture of New Zealand and the deeply conservative culture of Vietnam. We have my technical perspective and Cherry's political organizational perspective. So we're in an interesting space where we're in a crucible of thinking where all this stuff is going on. And as I say, we're networking in at the same time to as many groups of thinkers who are delving into this space at the same time as well. And then we also are connected to the IT thinkers in this space. So one of the people watching this webinar today, I noticed, is Mark Smalley. Hi, Mark, who is doing a lot of the thinking around ITIL 4. And
it's not ITIL 3.5.
No, we're on to 4 now. And so that community, I think with a lot as well. So I think we're in a fairly unique position in terms of the threads that we draw together on this. So we're not as smart as these people that we're linking up with, and we're not worthy only to touch the hem of the garment, but of some of them but we are in a position to synthesize that I think very few people are in. And so I hope that the ideas that we come up with will be quite unique in their own way because of that. We were very lucky to talk to Harrison Owen, even, who is the mind behind Open Space. And
so the reason behind Open Space is it come from the Harrison who observed that the best time, the most productive times when people have in the conference or meeting is the coffee time. So he turned the whole event is become coffee times. So make people feel free to talk and there's no structure and there's people, just like we have a coffee, have tea break. So that's the most productive way to get people's idea and blah blah. So that's why the open space coming. Is that right?
Yeah, and it has some fascinating deep humanistic roots around the dynamics of culture as well. I'm just wondering why the camera never switches. Does it switch to me when I'm talking?
Oh, because you are my best assistant ever. That's why.
So it doesn't switch to me.
Not
like my video when I speak. There we go.
Yeah.
We're still exploring the technology of Zoom as well, so sorry for the occasional glitches. There we go. Now it's finally popping to me.
So back to the reason why we really interested in the new way of working, or we call agile management, is that we start with why, right? So we want the business faster than the need or the demands or the change of the environment. So the only way we can get there is that agility through quality. Yeah.
So the deepest root of all this is that change is a constant. And change is a constant in our work, and change is a constant in our society, and it has been for decades, probably.
Yeah.
There's this myth that we have stable states of our systems that we build, we have stable states of our work processes that we execute, and that every now and then there are changes, and we change those, and they go to a new stable state, and then we're stable. And that myth kills us, because the reality in the world is that change is the condition. Change is the state of the world. Everything changes all the time. And we have to design our thinking, and we have to design our working, and we have to design the systems we build to on this premise, and throw away this idea of stability and build everything on the premise that change is the permanent condition. And that completely shifts our thinking about everything.
And people, the question that we got the most is that whether agile make business more risky. It's in reality, it reduces risk, because when we change very often, we work closer to people who need to change, including customer, and we know that we build the right thing. And so also, because this change is so often and it's small, so the impact of the change is very small. So it's not too risky to change for not the huge step. We don't do the big bang. So also, because we don't know the future, we don't know what's going on tomorrow. So we explore our way toward explore our way forward, and we get the strong feedback, so we can check the progress. And so because of that, we move faster. And when things went wrong, goes wrong, we fix things faster, quicker. Do you want to add something more about it?
Yeah, so these ideas are great in theory, but the really interesting thing is when you try and put them into practice. And it's been our experience that when we, and I'm going back here to my own IT experiences and Cherry's other experiences in the past of organizations that try and transform, and a lot of these supposed transformations fail. And our insight was not our insight. I mean, these insights have been given to us, but an insight that came from the Agile community was they talk about the permafrost, the frozen layer in the middle, and that resonated strongly with our own experiences, that the thing that primarily acts as a brake, as a lock on a lot of these attempts to change an organization's behavior are the middle managers. Not all middle managers, some of them, like another friend of ours, Pip, is on the call. You know, some people are very progressive and absolutely get the core of these ideas, and that's a different thing. But they, in turn, fight ahead when they battle with their colleagues, because a lot of managers are quite resistant to change in general, and is certainly resistant to changing the way we work in such a way that the models that they've used in the past are not the models they'll use in the future. And so, for example, we worked in Vietnam, as I said, with this client called Garment Company Number 10, and our experiences there, Cherry, was that we had strong support at the top and the bottom, but not necessarily universal support in the middle.
Yeah. And so when we change, when we help them to change, I think it's very important for the level, the top, support us all the way through, not in the middle, because sometimes it's a long way, and if you are not patient enough, you may lost track, or you don't even know where to go, and you feel like freaking out. Oh, we changed, that's enough. And then even though at the beginning you know that you need to change, but if you don't keep it in mind that you have to go a long way to get there, to be agile, then somehow you lost in the middle.
It all becomes too hard, too big, an elephant to eat. And so, we thought about this a lot, and mixed a couple of other insights into the soup as well. So another of those was one that Damon Edwards gave me at a DevOps Enterprise Summit conference one year. Damon said, you can't change a complex system, you can only create the conditions for it to change itself. And so that was another one of those aha moments, along with the permafrost concept, was this concept that you can't change the system, you can only allow it to change, because all of our work systems, and in fact all the systems we build as well, but all of our work systems are complex systems. And another one of the myths that kills us is the myth of the simple system, that you can define once and execute perfectly. You can say what you're going to do and then do it. And that's just not true, again, in complex systems. And so that's not true in our work systems. You can't just change the system. And again, in the past, certainly in IT, we've been really good at saying, do ITIL, here are the ring binders, work this way, do Prince2, this is the process. Why aren't they doing it? And so that was a deep aha moment for me, was you're right. You can only ask a system to change. You can only create the conditions for it to change, and then watch it evolve and hope it will respond, is a better word. Watch it respond. Complex systems behave almost as if they're alive. They behave in organic ways. So you can watch a system respond and see if it's responding in the correct direction and where you want it to go. And if it's not, then you change the conditions and try again. So it's very experimental to get a complex system of work to change. So that was the second insight, was stop doing it to the system and start trying to stimulate the system to work in the new ways.
And also belong with the system, we need to really care about the people's needs, because we tend to treat people as machine, as we treat them, we evaluate them with numbers. In reality, people need to be treated like human. And all the key KPIs and a lot of measurement methods, performance, whatever it is, like KPIs, and mostly it's just wrong. It's not. People are different. People really are different. They need to feel that they belong to the organization. They need the emotional connection with people around them. They need the feelings of safety. If you don't feel safe, you can't speak out, you can't create, and that's really bad. And I saw it in a lot of organizations that people dare not to speak out. And they even lost the sense of common, in like they can control their life, they can control their work, that's a lot of things that we don't, in many organizations we don't have that. So we really need to treat people as human.
And so when we're trying to stimulate that work system, part of that is one of the consequences of that, I think, is that people feel much more empowered and involved and included and safe, because you're not trying to force. They don't feel this sense of force that we're pummeling the system and pushing it to a certain point. Davy Olivier, who's the CIO at Westpac here in New Zealand, and is a real, I would use the word transformational leader. He gave me the insight that you don't push change, you create a pull for it. And so when people feel involved and included and treated as humans, then they feel safe and they feel like they're generating the change. They ask for the change. So I used the word invitational just before, and that's the open movement has taught us a lot about invitational leadership. A guy called Dan Mezek, and he's Cherry learnt a lot in the space of invitational leadership, of the idea that leaders can't tell people what to do, they can only ask them to come along.
Yeah, just like, for example, like your children, you can ask them to clean the house, clean up their room, but you can't force them to read a book. So we work with knowledge workers, so they can't make them work because they work in their mind, in their head. So how can you can't? It's not physical work.
Absolutely. So these old ideas of management come from the industrial age, when you could make people stand at a machine and stamp a part all day, because you could see what they were doing and you could shout at them and you could make them do it. But knowledge workers work, as Cherry says, inside their head, and you can't make them do it, and you can't see what they're doing, and you can't really see what quality they're doing it to either.
And even if you think that you be able to force people to work, they can't be their best if they have to. But if they're willing to, then the result will be different, because they do their best. And
So
and that's what really we want, their best at work.
Yeah, so these invitational concepts have been another powerful thing that we've added to the soup. And so we have this insight that quite often the sticking point is management, and that was the first one. And when you look at attempts to transform organizations, then quite often that's one area that doesn't get a lot of work, where the executive get the vision and work on the vision with everyone, and then we tell the troops do it and do the work. But very often we don't re-engineer how we manage the system so that the work can work differently. And so inspiring the managers and educating the managers and changing the management system. So the first key thing is getting the managers to come along. The second key insight is you can't change a complex system. You can only create the conditions for it to change itself. You can only invite it to change. And then the third piece of that puzzle was those conditions, what are they? Their management. So we come full circle. We need to change the way we manage. So we need the managers to come along. We need to change the system so that the people can work differently. In order to change the system, you create the conditions for it to change. Those conditions are, in fact, management. It's management who stimulate and create the conditions for our complex system of work. And so the third step is understanding that the key to all of this is new ways of management. By adopting new ways of management, you stimulate the system of work to change. And once the system of work changes, then people can change their behavior. And that in turn leads to new work. And so that's the main system. So there's two other things buried in there. One of them is that culture is not an input.
Yeah.
So you can't take a tube full of culture and squeeze it into the organization. Culture is an output. It's the emergent property of the organization.
So we like the quote from Edward Deming say, a bad system will beat a good people every time. So don't make your system is become the very bad system to beat good people.
Yeah, that's the other piece of the puzzle. So culture is emergent. The other piece of the puzzle is people are trapped in that system, and there's that great Deming quote that you said, and the other one I like is, which I'm not sure where I got it from, is unreasonable systems make unreasonable people. Yeah. Or people are victims of the system. You tell them to work differently, but if you don't change the system, then they're not going to change how they work.
Yeah. By the way, should we stop and look at the question in Slido?
I'm watching.
Okay.
Yeah,
nobody is asking.
Yeah, no questions yet.
Okay, so
you must be doing a wonderful job of explanation.
Yeah. So all people are sleepy at the moment.
No, they're coming from the USA and the
okay.
and New Zealand.
I see.
So all over the world.
So so talking about systems,
sorry, not the UK, Netherlands. Sorry,
Netherlands.
I always think of you as English.
Okay. Okay, so when we work with our clients, they often point the finger to the people, say like they are not good enough. And the managers and leaders think that, oh my God, it's all of my people, they are so inactive and they just wait for the order, and they constantly make the same mistake. And I don't know why. We didn't know what did we do wrong to get that result. I said, oh, okay. So is that a huge majority of people who behave that way, or just few people? They said almost all of them. I said, oh, so in that case, you have to look at your system. You look at the way you manage people, rather than blame them. But because if there's only few of them, then it's there maybe their fault, but it's almost all of them. It means that it's about it's come from the system. The system make that outcome.
One of my favorite patterns of behavior in management is we told them to do the DevOps and they're not doing the DevOps, or we told them to be agile and they're not being agile. What's wrong with them? And it's like, as Jerry says, maybe it's not them. When it's everybody, maybe it's not them. It's that something in the system is preventing them from adopting the new ways of working. And that something is the design of the system itself, and the key lock that prevents that system from moving is the way that we manage it and the behaviors of the managers, that people are trying to work in new ways and managers are still managing them in old ways. So I don't know how that resonates for people watching this video, but certainly for us, that appears to be a very common recurring pattern, is that the thing that prevents new ways of working is that we're stuck in old ways of managing.
And the thing, when we talk about system, people get confused. So actually, what is a system? So if you say that the condition for a system to change, so what it could be, it's like, we say, okay, how about change the goals? How about having a new KPIs? How about pay people differently? Or try some new technologies? Or how about changing the policy? Or how about deliver to products to customers more often? So that's all those things can be the condition for the systems. It's not necessary it's just document or rules, or it can be everything.
So we've created an insanely complex diagram, because all consultants need to have an insanely complex diagram, which we call the unicorn management model, and we'll be talking about that in future videos and unpacking it. But there are many ways we can stimulate that system and make it behave in new ways. And I'm trying to talk and fire that picture up at the same time if I can. That would be cool. And so we're kind of running up towards the end of our time. I've got a question here I'll come to in just a moment, but we hope to keep carrying on these sessions, partly to build a community of people interested, and partly just to capture our thoughts in a lot more detail. It's one way in a book, but it's another thing to talk about these. So we're going to unpack a whole lot of these aspects going forward in future conversations. There is so much to talk about here. One aspect is that model of how do you stimulate the system. Another aspect is talking about those three insights and unpacking those a bit more. Another one is talking about our practical experiences that we've had. And then another big, and then managers, obviously, what does it mean, new ways of managing, and unpacking and taking people through what we think new ways of managing means. And then another big aspect we want here is to talk to people about their personal journey, because this impacts all of us personally at a career level, and whether we're managers or not. But particularly, we will be talking to managers about your personal journey and where do you go with this stuff.
Yeah, to put it in a nutshell, what we have been talking so far is what we actually mean is that if we put it an organization in 4 levels, it starts from working level, and then system level, and management level, and leadership level. Each levels have a different functions or different perspective to contribute to the organization. Like, for example, the leadership at the value, management managed by principle to change, and the systems, we need to improve the flow of system, and the work at the work level to change the ways of working. So that whole part of, how to call it, is just in the part, if that the leadership, management, system, and work, the result of those operation, we get to the results of the culture of the organization. The culture of the organization is the outcome of the whole thing. It's not only work or system or management or leadership. It's the whole pact of 4 levels in an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will talk people through this model of attacking it at those 4 levels. And as we say, we think the key issue is that one of those levels gets missed so often, but we will talk to all 4. And so I'm not going to talk through this today, but at some time we'll go through this model and say that, just to give you an idea of how much underpins these simple things that we're talking about, that there's a huge amount of underpinning thought gone into this, and there are deep roots that there's rabbit holes, intellectual rabbit holes you can go down, and we do go down in many directions when you think about something as simple as change new ways of managing. Then we go into the agile disciplines, and so Pip asked the question of, how do we see this relating to modern agile? So agile philosophy in general, including the new emergent agile constructs like modern agile, are one part of this. And we've called the book The Agile Manager, but we've called it The Agile Manager with a small a, because we are using the word agile reluctantly. Capital A, agile, is one aspect of this, is the agility, but we feel like it's too limited a term for the overall, all the things that we're talking about. And so there's so much more to it. So we use agile reluctantly with a small a to say not capital A agile, but just the general sense of agility. But we talk about human systems agility is how we characterize all this. And so that's a huge domain. There's all the humanistic things that Cherry was alluding to earlier, treating people like actual humans and not just resources in a machine. And there's all the systems stuff, which brings in lean thinking, and it brings in complex systems theory. And then there's agility, which is applying complexity to how we work and being iterative and incremental and experimental and exploratory. And so that whole domain, human systems agility, is really the underpinning set of ideas for new ways of working and managing. And so we use the word agile with a small a. We do it reluctantly because people still use that as the portmanteau. They treat that as the word that encapsulates all this. So we kind of go along with that for now. But it's not a great word. It's just that there's not a better word out there. Not that I've found and digging around. So we have to say human systems agility because there's not a better word that encapsulates all of that. We think maybe open will be in future. We think that the open movement's going to become very powerful, and open will become as powerful a word as agile is now.
Mm-hmm. We hope, yeah.
We'll see.
Until Unicorn can invent something bigger than that.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with a word. But it's getting that mainstream acceptance, getting that flow. There are lots of words, other words around there. There's your favorite one. What is it? The fourth revolution or the...
Yeah. It's the fourth industry revolution. No, it's not mine. It's a...
It annoys the hell out of Cherry because it's such a meaningless piece of drivel. And there are other things out there similarly in use, but none of them are really totally used by people, and none of them are very good words. So we're using human systems agility, where agile is just one piece of agility even. It's just one subset of this domain.
Yeah. So people ask me why I changed my career into this agile enterprise, business agilities areas. I said that the reason why I'm so passionate about these areas because I see so many broken relationship at work, and nobody's happy. Mostly in many organizations, no matter how good people are, they are all unhappy. So we really want to help them to fix the relationship. The broken relationship is just so bad.
This makes people happier, and that's a highly motivating thing for us. Talking about invitation and motivation, I mean, that drives us forward as we just see people getting benefit from this stuff. We see happiness. We light the grass fire, is the language we used at one client of mine, where people are just crying out for new ways of working and even for new ways of managing, and you just have to wave the flame around, and it just woof, it goes. People embrace these ideas. It's not a hard sell. It's not. There's no stick. It's all carrot. That people love this because it makes them happier, and it makes work better. And what could be better to get us off to work every day than being part of that
journey? Yeah.
So that's our time. I think we've spent plenty of time. Thank you to those who came along and listened. I hope you got value out of that. We welcome some feedback. And when will the next one be, Cherry? We're off to Vietnam on Saturday, so we need to find a time when we can do another one. But we'd like to do this weekly.
Yeah. Okay. But not at 8 in the morning, I hope.
Well, we'll fiddle the time around to suit different time zones.
If you are Vietnamese, you speak English as a second language, and in the morning your brain don't work, you understand me.
And then we will post these webinars so people later can also follow up and watch. It's not going to be just live, so we'll make these available later for others to watch. And some of the future ones will be more of a forum style. We'll have discussional, talk to people about their journeys, because we like talking about the stuff with people and trying to help people along. And others will be just us talking, and others will get some guests along as well and get some other different perspectives. But for now, that's Teal Unicorn, and that's our views. And thank you very much for joining in and listening.
Thank you so much. See you again.